Hello, guys, and you're welcome. My name is Mahmood, and today I just want to talk to you about a few things that I personally found challenging, especially when writing code and coding for games, like building programs for games and all that. So the first tip I want to give you is that you're not in a competition with anybody else. There's a lot of content on the internet, and most of the times what happens is you find someone writing exceptionally good code. They're so good at writing computer programs, and they're so good at solving problems, and you just feel a bit overwhelmed because you realize you don't know how to do those things. You don't know how to think like a programmer. You don't know how to solve some problems that come up when you're building your game. So just take it easy on yourself. It took a long time for whoever you're seeing on that program, or whoever you follow on YouTube or any other platform. So it took a long time, a while, for them to get comfortable to the point where they are, and they are always constantly learning. So have an open mindset and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Now, the second one is your speed and how fast you consume a tutorial or a course doesn't really matter if you're not understanding it. So if it takes you 1 week and you rush through a course and finish that course, you're still not going to understand the full concept of that course or that content or whatever you're supposed to learn. You might actually be able to build the game eventually or build the program eventually, but when it comes to building a new program on your own, most of those things you learn, because you've rushed through them, you find out you're always going back and you not really learn as effectively as you should. So it's not an examination. There is no timer that's ticking, that's timing you. Make sure you understand the concept and try to practice that concept and practice effectively, which brings us to the third point. If before you write code, make sure you can explain the problem in simple, good old plain fashion English. Let's say, for instance, I'm trying to make a player rotate 3 times. Basically, that's your mission. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make a player rotate 3 times. So try and understand the problem. So when you tell someone, hey, I'm trying to make the player rotate 3 times. So then what you can do from there is to say, okay, I need to get an input and I need to get the rotation property. And based on my input, I might need to multiply it by a vector that will rotate the property, which is the rotation, by a specific number of degrees. Now, there are lots of ways you can solve this kind of problem. You could call the function once, or you can call the function 3 times so that it can rotate at a specific angle 3 times, or you can set a timer that you get the deal. You get the deal. So the fourth point is that, like I mentioned, you need to take it easy on yourself. You also need to make sure that you use a lot of online resources and be limited and specific. So don't download 10 gigabytes or 100 gigabytes worth of game programming tutorials. You will never be able to complete them. So reduce the amount of external help you get. So buy a course or 2 courses, make sure you complete those courses, and just make sure you complete those courses without any external pressure. Don't be YouTubing at the same time, watching a course at the same. Just pick one and take your time. In that way, it'll make sure that you're limited to the vast amount of knowledge that's out there, and you're focused in what you are doing. Another way to actually learn effectively, especially when you're writing games, is to start the project all over again, or start sections of the project all over again. For instance, if you just learned how to use the input to manipulate a player by adding a force or a velocity in a specific direction on a 2D character, once you've learned how to do that, write your little notes, type in the code. Make sure you always type in the code, and then try to do that by yourself without looking at the tutorial or without searching for external help. Whenever you try and you get stuck, it's okay. You now go back to the material, see where you made the mistake, how you got stuck, and then try starting over again. By doing that, you're training yourself and your brain to be able to actually do that stuff automatically. So it's going to be built inside you. You might not necessarily need to have your notebook. I have my my notebook. Okay, I've placed it on top of the camera. I showed you because I have a lot of notes. And also what I want you to do when you're watching a tutorial is whenever your instructor meets a specific problem, find out how they solve that problem, and within your notes, jot down that this is the problem and this is how they solved the problem. It'll actually show you the steps they took to break down a complex or a simple problem by breaking it down into a much more simpler problem. Another advice I like to give you, especially when you're starting out coding, is not to be over ambitious. Have a very basic project you can finish, a very simple project. It could be a game about objects or meteors that are falling from the sky, and your player needs to dodge those meteors in a specific time. Basically, that's your game. There is no speed, there is no change in levels. You only have one player, one meteor, and sometimes you might not even have audio. Just make sure you have that game and you've completed that game, and you can use that in your portfolio to showcase that you actually know how the engine works and how you can move around. So the third advice is don't jump too much engines. Initially, you can jump engines. Basically, you can say, oh, I'm using Unity, I'm using Unreal, I'm using Construct, I'm using Godot, I'm using GDevelop, I'm using GameMaker. You can use a lot of tools, but try and narrow the game tools you use. In that way, you'll be focused on mastering one engine, and when you're comfortable with that, you might just try to divert or check out a much more challenging or complex engine. But the idea is to keep it simple. So as a quick wrap up, take it easy on yourself. You're a human being. Make sure you get enough rest, get enough sleep. You're in no competition with anyone on this planet. Move at your own pace. Make sure you rewrite code that you've learned, and just keep typing code. Don't just watch coding videos. It's a big mistake to watch someone write code and think you understand it. No, you don't. You need to type in the code manually with your own hands and build your muscle memory. So I hope this helps. This is what I've been doing, and it's helping me work on my own personal projects. It's helping me learn more from tutorials. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.